Hey everybody, Robert with RC Archery. I know it's not Tuesday, but I've been having some internet issues for the past 2 weeks. So this video is going to be coming out as soon as possible, as soon as I can get somewhere to get it uploaded. So it may be a Wednesday or a Thursday or a Friday or even the weekend. But I've had 2 weeks worth of not being able to get a video out, so I wanted to be able to make up for it today. This video is going to be inspired by a tournament that I shot last weekend, and it was during that round something that I noticed about drift that I had to correct. So today's video is 3 tips to help you eliminate drift by how you set your bow arm. All right, so tip number 1 is how we draw the bow back. Drawing the bow back correctly allows us to set our front shoulder, but it also allows us to set the joints in our wrist and our elbow as well as the shoulder. Doing this allows our arm to work like a shock absorber on a car. It minimizes overall travel and it also softens the movement that you see within your sight picture. Now, I've talked about this on other videos, and this is a big thing that I work with on archers that I coach as far as the proper drawing mechanics. So I'm going to show you a still photo here with some lines drawn so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about real quick. And you can see that the bow hand itself is up above the bow shoulder. It's somewhere in between like your nose and your shoulder, your chin and your shoulder, something like that. And the reason we have that hand above a little bit like that is because as we're drawing, it actually pulls downward in with the arm and it pushes all the joints together and it seats the shoulder without making the shoulder want to raise up. So like if you have your bow hand down, it wants to make your shoulder raise up. And then it also allows you to be able to come down to anchor and level everything out. When you do that, you actually create a positive sense of balance within the bow system. And what I mean by that is, think of like a seesaw and your arm and your body being the fulcrum. You can hold your bow out in your hand without actually shooting it, and you can test this theory really quickly. What I want you to do first is hold the bow out with your hand below the bow shoulder so you can have it here. And I want you to feel how heavy the bow feels in your hand, just the weight of it in general. And then I want you to let that, your arm down and kind of let it relax a little bit. And then I want you to hold it up again, and I want the hand this time to be above the shoulder. And you can see that when it's above the shoulder, it transfers the weight into your core and into your body. So it's actually less work on the bow arm itself, and it will make it easier for you to hold the bow up on target. All right, so tip number 2 is how we're drawing the bow in relation left and right on target. This is actually what inspired this video for me and what I noticed in my tournament last weekend. And if you work with me in coaching, if you've seen some of my instructional videos that you can purchase through my website, you've seen in some of those me talking about finding your natural point of aim on a horizontal platform, so left and right. And we do that by the way that we're setting our feet, our hips, our shoulders, and aligning our body and opening up the spread between our hips and our shoulders. And regardless of how you're setting that up, if you're drawing back and anchoring and starting to engage the correct muscles, when you engage those muscles, it locks you into place somewhat. So if you were drawing the bow back, and say I draw the bow back like I did in this tournament, and I'm a little bit left, and I come down on anchor, and I'm here, and I engage those muscles, and I have to kind of work it back to the middle, my body is naturally going to want to drift back to that starting point, and I'm actually going to have to fight it to come back to the middle of the target. Now, on that shot, I let down, luckily, noticed what was going on, started over. Had I not, I know from my misses in the past when I've done this, I will have a tendency to still miss whatever direction that I started. Now, how wide that is depends on the shot and how I set up. But my shot and the way that you will execute your shot allows you to get back to that natural point of aim, which is where you start off. So whenever you're getting to full draw, make sure that you are drawing the bow back. You don't have to point at the target where your hand is too low. I still recommend coming up like we talked about in tip number 1, but you want to make sure that you're coming up and your pin is at or just above the spot that you're wanting to aim at. Left and right, you're directly in line with it perfectly. And that way when you come back to anchor, you can settle and you can kind of get everything worked out high and low with your breath and the way that you're expanding through your body and the way that you're setting that shoulder. But left and right, you do need to be in line and perfect. In this week's Patreon content for Tier 1 and Tier 2 groups, the video is going to be going more in depth on what I'm doing to lock my body into place so that it minimizes your float, and it also helps you with your shot sequence and what you're seeing on target. Now, tier 2 video on just itself is actually going to be the True Ball GOAT release review. You're going to be getting that early, and you may be the only ones that get it. If you notice, I'm going to pull my release out of my release pouch right now. This is what I'm using. It's a True Ball Fulcrum Flex. I actually don't even have the GOAT anymore to show in the video that I'm doing, and I started not to make it, but I did go ahead and make it because I want to give a good review on it and give you my thoughts on it. But I do apologize in advance. I don't have the release to be able to show you kind of how it works or what the diagnosis was for me on it. But if you're not subscribing to my Patreon channel already, down in the description of this video will be a link to take you to the landing page for that. There's 2 different tiered subscriptions, bi-monthly, and then or the subscription is by the month. So I'm putting that out, and it's just additional content. So it's extra content, whether it's more tips like what we talked about in this video, tournaments, reviews, whatever it may be. You're gonna have some extra good information in there, similar to what you would see when you worked with me on coaching, or if you purchased one of my instructional videos, it has more in-depth and detailed video than these YouTube videos. All right, tip number 3 involves our bow arm and how we're relaxing the correct muscles and also engaging the correct muscles as well. Now, with our bow arm, we need to look at it and think of it as the steering wheel to the system. Your release hand and your back of your body, what you're pulling through with, is more like the gas pedal, but your arm is the steering wheel, and we need to be able to allow our bodies to take over for the float, but we also need to learn how to minimize that float as well, you know, as much as we can based on our bodies, our shot, and what we're doing. So with that being said, I prefer to relax from the forearm down. You'll hear a lot of archers say relax from your elbow down, but I don't believe in relaxing the elbow fully. And I feel like that from what I've talked with archers when I'm working with them and trying to explain this to them, if you tell somebody to start relaxing from your elbow down, then they relax the elbow fully and they end up creeping, or they have some issues with the bow wanting to shoot them versus them shooting the bow. So what I tell everybody, relax from your forearm down. What that allows us to do, it relaxes the muscle here in the forearm to take a lot of the jitters out of our sight picture. When your forearm is really tense, you'll notice some jittery sight picture. And then it also allows us to relax the wrist, which is going to help us keep a more balanced pressure on the grip itself. When the wrist is tense, you can be too high or too low into the grip. You can also torque the bow left and right, especially if you're not relaxing the hand. So you also have to be relaxing your hand, obviously, as well. The grip that I teach, I've gone over in some of my other videos, but it's curling the outer fingers in, creates a pocket. It also keeps you off your lifeline. You can put that into the bow. Obviously, we want to keep our tension level and even throughout the grip here. But then the muscles that we're engaging are going to be stabilizer muscles for the shoulder and for the arm. Now, I won't go too in depth on this. This is going to be the information that I'm going to have on my Patreon extra content video for the tier 1 and tier 2 subscribers today. But I will give you some ideas on what you're looking for and what you're wanting to do. The shoulder joint itself is the most complex joint in our entire bodies. It can move in a lot of different directions, and it's not the same as, say, our elbow joint that literally is just going to come in and go out. Our shoulder can go up and down and sideways, and it can go circular motions. It's very complex, which is great for our range of movement and what we're allowed to do as a human, but awful when it comes to shooting a bow, because there's a lot of different ways that shoulder can move in order to throw us off the middle of the target. So with our shoulder joint, there is a lot of muscles that surround that joint itself, and all those muscles are stabilizing muscles for the joint. And it helps keeps it in place, and it helps support that movement and the range of motion. Those are the muscles that we need to work on stabilizing the joint itself and using within our shot. Now also, we want to be using the tricep muscle. So if you're not familiar with that, the tricep is the muscle here on the outside of our arm. You'll see it, it's a line that'll run down this side. It is the muscle that allows us to extend our arm out. So obviously with a bow, that's important, You need to be able to keep the bow extended out. That's also why I say don't fully relax the elbow, because you're going to need to hold the elbow joint out in order to keep you from collapsing and coming in. I'm going to give you a couple shots here and let you see it from a couple different angles. And the first shot that I'm going to make from each angle is going to be without stabilizing the muscle joints that I'm talking about, and without really calming down the extra movement that's available to you. And then the second shot, I'll do my normal shot. I'll calm those muscles down. I'll let you see, again, from a couple different angles. This sideways angle right here, pay a lot of attention to the height of the shoulder, that it's not up and it's not pulled back into my neck. You want it to be seated correctly in place and out, but not overextended. You want it to still be over your front hip. That allows your core and your torso to be able to hold the bow up on target, and it keeps you the range of motion available to you with your release arm side to be able to still pull through your shot and expand. If you get that shoulder too far back, can't pull through your shot anymore. I've done a video on the back tension that shows that really well, and I'll link it here in this one so you can view it. All right, so again, first shot here is going to be without stabilizing any of the muscles in my shoulder and just letting the arm basically free float. So when you do that, honestly, it's not too bad when you're just holding on target. What you start noticing the big changes on is when you start executing, especially as you're pulling through the shot and trying to maintain even pressure throughout both sides of the body and not over pressuring the bow system. But when you don't use the correct muscles to stabilize that joint, you will see your bow arm and your float on target, it will start to move around, and it could even be erratic and drift and do all kinds of weird stuff. So this shot is going to be my normal shot. I'm going to use the right muscles and do everything like I normally would. So on that one, perceived motion on my end is a lot less on what I'm seeing on my sight picture. Hopefully that will dictate and show as well in this camera view. The next view that I'm going to show you should show it even better, because you're going to get a really good look at what my stabilizer and my bow is actually doing during execution. All right, so this first shot here, this is no stabilization for the shoulder joint and just allowing the arm to be able to free float. So hopefully you can see that. It's a little harder for me to let my arm free float. I'm having to consciously make sure that I'm keeping that muscles relaxed. I'm just used to it by now. But I saw more movement, especially right at first. It's really easy to see that in my sight picture, especially as I'm pulling through. This is gonna be my normal shot. I'll let you see the differences between the two. All right, that gives you two different views to be able to see exactly what I'm looking at as far as movement. Stabilizer movement is going to be a lot more than what I ever see in my pen from going back and viewing these videos, but it'll give you a really good idea as far as what I'm seeing and what the overall movement is between the two different setups. All right, everybody, again, if you want to see in depth what I'm doing to stabilize my body, stabilize my shot, and have better consistent execution, use the link below in the description of this video. Become a member of my Patreon channel. Honestly, it helps me be able to do things like give you the GOAT review, give you a review over stabilizers that I'll have coming in the future, other products, better camera viewing equipment, better editing software to be able to show you different, better angles. Everything that you give back to me, it goes back 100% into this channel and allows me to be able to give you better viewing content. Hope you enjoyed the video today, and I hope it's going to help you with your shooting, give you 3 tips to be able to stabilize that front arm, make your aim better on target. Appreciate everybody for watching. Sorry for missing a couple weeks and it being late this week, but I will see you soon.